Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, everybody, welcome to the special meeting of Council on Friday the 14th of February 2025. I'll get straight into the agenda. Attendances, apologies and approved leave of absence. We only have an apology from Councillor Skin. Welcome, by the way, welcome to everybody in the community. Declarations of interest. I don't have any declarations of interest. Public question time. Is there any public questions? Other than I received a public question from Mr. Shane Armour, which we won't be dealing with today because the special council meeting is basically any public questions need to pertain to that item alone. So I would ask that Shane has that opportunity at either the AGM on the 18th of February or the upcoming ordinary council meeting on the 25th of February to come and personally ask his question. And in fact, if the BBA wish to come in and address council, they may do so at either of those meetings. So we've also received a public question from Sherry Spackner, and she asks that that's not a question.
Well, it is that she's asking council to
uphold. Okay, so I urge you to uphold the clause and ensure that a tiny bit of Robinson Street is left for commercial use. So, we can answer that after we've addressed the item.
Which my email received this morning that I sent to all the councillors, yourself and to the CEO. Thank
We can't address it at this meeting. We will address it, as I said, either at the AGM or the ordinary council meeting. Which one do you prefer?
It's a special meeting. Can't put it on the agenda.
Yeah, no, it can't
special
go
meeting is for the purpose of the special meeting.
Just the next ordinary meeting will be fine.
Okay, thank you very much. So once we've got past that, there being no other questions. There being no other questions, we have a presentation from Mr. Nick Delano. There you are, Nick.
Thank you, Mr. President and Councillors. Thanks for the opportunity to present here today. It's good to be here. I'm not here to talk about the planning merits of the current application because I'll leave that to Josh from Planning Solutions to do shortly. But what I do want to talk about is how important it is today for the Shire to approve this application. But before getting into that, I want to turn to the previous scheme that's currently on foot and that was conceived some 3 odd years ago and how we got to the point that we are at today. So just to recap, the previous scheme contained 35 apartments in stage 1 fronting OLIVIA Terrace, 51 apartments in stage 2 facing Robinson Street, sitting above 1,500 square metres of commercial space, and 24 apartments in stage 3 which were internally facing overlooking the pool. So the total apartments in that scheme were 110 units, which could be used for either short stay or permanent stay owner occupiers. It was certainly an ambitious scale project for a town the size of Carnarvon. Indeed, it'd be an ambitious project back down in Perth at the moment. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in securing a hotel operator for stages 2 and 3, with a lot of the feedback being the nightly rates and expected occupancy levels were not at the level that would make a business of that scale and size viable. With respect to the 1,500 square metres of commercial space that was part of stage 2, we sought pre-commitments for office space leases from government departments and agencies, mining companies operating in the Gascoyne region, and private businesses. Unfortunately, we also sought pre-commitments for the 350 square metres food and beverage venue that is located on the corner, and engaged for many months with discussions with microbrewery operators, some that we have some connections with, and restaurant operators. But unfortunately, again, the social issues facing the town at that time and the negative publicity from the media made it difficult to get any traction with any of those discussions and secure any pre-commitments. Further compounding matters with a significant number of empty shops on Robinson Street that are still for lease today. I mean, I walked through and counted 6 vacancies within 50 metres of our site. Further, in addition to that, the rents that those tenancies are asking were far under what we could possibly make our commercial component of the project viable for, so we just couldn't compete with those rents. In addition to what I've said, other external factors that have prevented the previous scheme from moving forward include, and these certainly beyond our control, unprecedented levels of inflation over the past 2.5 years that have increased construction costs by more than 35% in Perth and significantly more in the regions. 13 interest rate increases in a row, which has had a massive impact on valuations, yields, cap rates and funding costs for the project. An extremely overheated construction industry, resulting in little to no local interest from subcontractors in the project when it was put to tender last year, and from some contractors in Perth due to an abundance of work down there already. Turning to the current scheme before you today, the current scheme is a project of scale and size that is deliverable, even with those external factors I've just taken you through. The 56 apartments are of the same size internally as the previous scheme. They still consist of 2 bed, 2 baths at 75, 76 square metres and 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartments at 51 square metres. They still contain the same high quality finishes internally as the previous scheme. There's been no alteration to any of that. We have reduced the number of apartments fronting Robinson Street from 51 to 20, which goes some way to addressing council concern regarding the number of dwellings facing Robinson Street. We still have a corner bar and restaurant statement on near the roundabout and office component above of some 220 to 230 square metres, so 2/3 of the size of what was previously put forward, which we are proceeding with. The car parking is the same basically on grade, and it was certainly never contemplated in this scheme or the previous one to have parking for caravans, boats, jet skis or the like. We simply don't have enough land to cater for those vehicles. Carnarvon is critically short of new investment in quality large-scale accommodation for both permanent and short-term use. There is little to no demand for large-scale commercial space, unfortunately, at this time. This project will be delivered in 1 stage and not 3, providing certainty that the site is developed in 1 hit and be complete within 12 months of commencement on site. The design is in keeping with the size and scale of other buildings in and around the town centre. Council may recall last time when the previous scheme was put forward that some councils thought that scheme belonged in Subiaco and not Carnarvon. I guess, design is something that is quite subjective, and from my perspective, I think it fits quite well within the town centre scale. It would be a terrible outcome for the town if this proposal was not approved today, and the land remained vacant for the next decade or longer until commercial demand increased enough to enable the previous scheme to proceed. This new scheme will inject life into the waterfront end of town, with 150 to 200 people living and staying and occupying this site. The knock-on effects to local businesses on Robinson Street would be positive if this project is approved, not a negative. Some of those empty shops I saw today may even be leased up and trading. The ground floor fronting Robinson Street in the new concept has been designed to be converted to commercial in the future, and the future may be the immediate future or the long-term future, if and when there is demand for such use. But importantly, it can be adapted. So in summary, the new scheme has been recommended for approval by the Shire's administration. I respectfully request that councillors here today support that scheme and approve it so we can move forward with the development. I thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Councillors, has anybody got any questions? By all means, put your hand up. Just before you start, Councillor, ask your question. When you receive the answer, please try don't debate the response, and that goes for all councillors.
Okay. Thanks, Nick, for that presentation. I don't disagree with anything that you said there. We have been getting feedback from the community, both positive and negative, and the negative element of the feedback tends to be around the residential development on Robinson Street, and obviously the residential nature of the development overall. I understand the mitigating factors you're discussing there. We've got those buildings on Robinson Street being capable and being able to be converted, and I accept that. And I think that's a good way. That's a good way to operate debating now. That's a solution anyway for that. The issue that one thing I'd like to raise with you is the possibility of the cafe development on the corner, and linked to other developments that I'm aware of in communities similar to our size or similar in nature, climate, all that kind of thing. And that one being the Onslow Beach Bar. And I wonder if you're familiar with that development at all.
I'm not.
Okay. It's a development that it's a restaurant / bistro, more of a format than a cafe format.
Yep.
And I just wonder if, to me, something like that on that corner would take the support. If it's sitting on the fence in the community, it's been 50-50, that would take it to something like 80-20-90. It's just missing a piece like that, which makes the development a CBD worthy development. Is that something that can be looked at? Or?
Yeah, no, certainly we're not looking to, and I may have mentioned this in conversations previously, but we're certainly not looking to do a food and beverage offering that's already existing in town. So we are looking to introduce a bistro / bar into that. I know it's called a cafe on the drawings, but it's certainly not proposed to be a cafe. It's proposed to be something that sits above that sort of pub level of offering. And it's likely that, given I guess the lack of interest to date in terms of leasing up the previous scheme, that we'll be operating that under our own division of F&B, which we've got a couple of other venues that we're looking at doing down in Perth at the moment and Margaret River. So certainly take that on board as we're looking to elevate that offering for the community.
So have you consulted directly with Leichhardt in regards to any commercial space they might be interested in?
I have, yes, and I have, and those conversations are still ongoing, but nothing's been pre-committed or even close to in landed yet with those guys.
But they are interested.
They are interested in the residential.
Okay.
Yeah, not commercial. No. Not to my knowledge, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further questions, councillors? Nick, I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Vandaloo was talking about. I think I've had a look and we've pulled out some plans from 2010, and it's absolutely, these plans were from the old inquiry by design, which is what Carnarvon wanted Carnarvon to look like, what people wanted it to look like. In the top right-hand corner there's a picture which is, I thought you'd probably seen this.
I may have seen it several years ago.
Yeah, okay, so, but that is what the community, and I haven't had anybody say anything negative about that. But in that corner, there is that bistro type setup with the bigger windows, and you can sit back in that little bit upmarket environment and enjoy it. So, would there be, could we look at that positively?
That's the corner element.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, I mean, I think I'm looking at that top right-hand image. Yeah, that two-level building. Well, that's certainly what we're proposing to do at the moment, is we've got that wraparound al fresco area at ground level, and upstairs has the balcony. So that building can be fully utilised for F&B. It doesn't need to be just only the ground floor. In fact, internally we've been looking at that space, and it's probably a little bit small once you've taken the kitchen needs to grow, etc. So we may end up spilling up into the upper level anyway with functions and the like. So I certainly take on board what you're saying in terms of what the community wants to see there, and we're definitely committed to doing something pretty nice on that corner that reflects the 2010 vision and even what we had previously approved on the site.
So you wouldn't be adverse to us putting that in?
Putting what in exactly? Sorry.
Yeah, adding it into the requirements.
The conditions?
Yeah.
Exactly what
Well,
sort of condition would it?
we'd like to see a bit more upmarket and a bit bigger bistro and whatever.
Perhaps we could incorporate some sort of management strategy or a plan or something,
Yeah.
Stefan.
No, that's fine. That's what we're proposing there. Well, in terms of the use of it, I understand we have that flexibility under the scheme that it can be either restaurant, office, or restaurant. That's not an issue. So yes, we'd be fine with that.
Can you scribble away and come up with something perhaps that we could...
So councillors, once again, any further questions? Sorry, Sorry. No further questions, councillors?
What would be your commencement date if things were approved? I mean, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months?
Within 6, yes.
Within 6 months?
Yeah.
Because that's a major thing. I mean, it's already been indicated it's been sitting there for some time.
Subject to the approval process.
Yeah, I
That's
understand.
which these days seems to, not planning, but even building takes time.
Pouring concrete.
But yeah, certainly, council, something we're trying to get on actively and get done as quickly as we can. So we're not
Fair enough. Thank you.
delaying things.
Thank you, Nick, and I believe Josh is going to give us a bit of a presentation for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm going to just share my screen. Can you see the presentation?
Yep.
All right, well, yes, my name is Josh Carmody. I'm the planning consultant on this project. And I'll be speaking to some of the planning merits and some of the other aspects of this development. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, that's good. So if I've taken the liberty of summarising the Shire's position from the report in front of you, which is that they believe that the development has merit from an urban design perspective in terms of the scale and the height of it. They support the variation that we've sought for residential dwellings on the ground floor fronting Robinson Street. They agree that there's some additional technical considerations to be resolved at detailed design stage, and that would be addressed with conditions of approval. And overall, they agree and assess the development as having merit and being consistent with the planning framework. So this is a positive assessment. We agree with all these comments, and we request council support the development. However, in reading the Shire's report, my attention was drawn to page 15, which contains a description of the or an assessment of the development, which I think probably would certainly reflect some views on this, maybe in the community. And that is that this site was envisaged as a transformational development that would enhance the streetscape, activate the frontage and contribute to a vibrant town centre. The anticipated development would include boutique accommodation, flexible commercial spaces, a wellness centre and retail offerings comparable to regional centres such as Broome, Geraldton and Exmouth. And the current development proposal represents a departure from those expectations. In many respects, it may be viewed as a regression in terms of the site's potential as a landmark location. So recognising that this is one perspective, but the focus of my presentation is largely in response to that, and I hope to satisfy council that this is not the case. One thing, we've distributed to council some photo montages which illustrate the impact of the development on the streetscape of the town centre. These are not plans that are included in any of the public documents, so members of the community wouldn't necessarily see those. I may be wrong, but I don't think Nick has any objection to councillors sharing those with community members who might want to see it. But this illustrates exactly what it's going to look like in the context of the existing town centre. Another montage here from OLIVIA Terrace. And so what we can see here is that the development clearly delivers an enhancement to the streetscape. It's going to contribute to the town centre. Now, whilst that's true, it is the case that that the height and the density have been reduced relative to the previous. And so the point we just want to make is that height and density have never been critical to the transformation of regional towns and centres in WA. And we can look at every regional town centre in this state, from Geraldton to Busselton to Nannup to Broome, and we can see that every building is 1 to 2 stories with a handful of exceptions that you can count on basically one hand. Great urban places, great main streets, great people's favourite destinations are all characterised by this low-rise development. And so this is part of the reason why I just, in comparing this development to regional centres like Broome, Geraldton and Exmouth, and saying that the reduction in height is somehow a negative comparison to those, I don't think that's the case. All of these locations have been developed, even the waterfront locations, as low-rise developments. Broome in particular is almost predominantly a single story, and yet it's one of the more popular tourist destinations in WA. Now, it is true that there has been a few quite high density developments in some of the northern regional towns. But in preparation for this meeting, I did a bit of a survey, and I determined that none of those buildings has been built after 2017, and in fact all of them appear to have occurred. Basically every building in the north of WA that's greater than 3 stories has been built between about 2010 and 2017. And this suggests that there was a brief window of opportunity, or a brief window in which those scale of developments were possible. And I haven't confirmed this, but it does appear to align with royalties for regions, and no doubt there was a level of government involvement in those high density projects. But it's highly significant that since 2017, for the last 7 years, there has not been building, maybe you might be able to find it, I have been unable to find a building greater than 3 stories having been built in the last 7 years. So that speaks to why this development is now being put forward as 2 stories. This is a consistent trend that we're seeing across the construction sector. It's no longer viable to build developments between 3 and 6 or 7 stories. The term that's used in planning and development circles is the missing middle. It's a recognised phenomenon, if you like, partly as a consequence of all the various construction costs, financing, market shifts, and various other matters. None of that is particularly relevant to the point that a 4-storey outcome is not a critical factor to delivering a great main street. And this is just a simple comparison showing how what is being delivered here in Carnarvon is going to enhance this main street and deliver a great outcome for the town. Now, returning to just one other point, if you give me another couple of minutes, the comment, the Shire's comment, and I say with respect, the other Shire's comment was that the development that was anticipated was one that would deliver boutique accommodation, flexible commercial spaces, a wellness centre and retail offerings comparable to regional centres such as Broome, Geraldton and Exmouth. Now, again, I have done a bit of research on this, and I've been unable to find in any of those other towns an equivalent development that provided all of these land uses. We look at the Geraldton waterfront, the comparison, it's quite clear that all of those different uses are provided across a multitude of different developments. We can see that in Exmouth they may have a hotel, a bar, a restaurant, but there isn't the commercial spaces, there isn't the retail spaces, there isn't the wellness spaces. In Broome, again, it's a whole precinct. We've got all these different uses across the entire precinct. And I think this just points to the fact that we can't place all of our hopes on a single development to achieve every strategic goal for the whole town. And I know that's easy for me to say. I'm a consultant engaged by the developer, but at the same time, this is a real movement, if you like. There's a recognition at the moment that some of these approaches to development need to be rethought. And I say this because there's a whole movement coming out of America. It's called the Strong Towns movement. Based in the US, but attracting an audience around the world. And the central premise of this movement is actually rejecting the idea of major transformational projects in favour of facilitating incremental growth at all levels of scale on a constant and ongoing basis. And so, ultimately, great places don't become that overnight. It happens on a site-by-site, development-by-development basis. First a restaurant, then a bar, then a shop, first the population, then the commercial. Geraldton's waterfront's been developing for 25 years, it's still only 60% complete. Exmouth, well, I wouldn't compare Carnarvon to Exmouth. I think from a purely planning perspective, it has a lot more advantages in terms of it's got a clear main street that can be built on. It's got a much better town centre structure. So ultimately, this is a great development. I hope that it can be approved with the full support of council on the basis of recognising this merit, and that it can be communicated to the community what those benefits are. Now, if you don't mind, I just have one final request to put to council, and that is we have previously requested that council consider waiving the application fee of approximately $15,000. In the report, the Shire has recommended against this on the basis that previously $31,000 of fees were waived, and that significant work has been undertaken. We do recognise the work of the officers involved. And so my request would be that the council instead consider a concession on the fees of 50% instead of a waiver. This application, whilst it is a fresh application, it is still a refinement of what was previously put forward. It still contains many of the same attributes, and it does represent an ongoing investment in trying to make this site work. Now, the Shire has received to date $31,000 of fees in relation to the previous applications, and combined with another $6,900, 50% of the fees for this, that would be a reasonable amount to cover the Shire's time invested in this. It's true that $7,000 is not a lot in the context of development of this scale, but at the same time, the cumulative impact of fees, taxes, costs across the whole development is substantial and critical. So we would request that Council adopt an alternative resolution granting that 50% concession. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillors, any questions? Okay, so councillors, there is no questions. Councillors, I'll refer you to the officer's recommendation, part 1. We'll handle the officer's recommendation in 2 stages. Part 1 and part 2 will be done separately, because they are totally different, basically. So officer's recommendation, part 1. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Dudley Mason, thank you. A seconder, please. Councillor Farina. Councillors, I will be speaking to this motion. Councillor Dudley Mason, would you like to open the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a long and tedious road to get development going in Carnarvon. We've, over many years, we've tried different things, North Water, and we've got them up and going, and through one thing or another, unfortunately mostly because of the inefficiency of government of the day, they've stopped in their tracks. The later one being North Water, which was still 20 years ago, or nearly 15 years ago. And there's nothing much has happened since. This is an opportunity. Oh, sorry, I'll just go back a little bit. I had a fair bit to do with the actual creation of this block by insisting that the government of the day in 2004, or whatever it was, shifted the courthouse along with the new police station was being proposed at that time out of the CBD of Carnarvon, so we could create a premium block in the town to facilitate the development of something similar to what we've got, something which was shown on those plans there with the inquiry by design, which was part of the process, and it went on and went on and went on. And I noticed there's some previous shire president here and there's some of us being councillors, is it's a game that government plays is paralysis by analysis, and procrastination is a thief of time. And I just think that if we're going to go ahead, that this is on the table. This is an offer. I know that we hope for something better, but it was Mr. Lard made it mention that this is not just a Carnarvon issue. In this Perth and everywhere else, there are vacant shops in the streets. There are developments that are stalled. There is all the other pressures on the availability of builders and creators. This is something that, as in answer to my question, could start within 6 months. But let's be realistic. Let's say by the time we go through all the nonsense that we've got to go through, that they start in 12 months. That something starts here. At the moment, we're sitting in the main street there. The people have coffee, look across the block. It's blowing dust and sand. It's been sitting there for close to 20 years. And whilst I understand the arguments for and against, it's a vexing question, it's a quandary that we're in, but as leaders of this town that need to get it going, we are patently aware that something has to happen here to get us going. And this is on the table. This is I consider it a genuine offer. I'd rather see it the Rolls Royce that we first thought we were going to have, but I also understand the commercial realities of the situation. So consequently, Mr. President, I commend the officer's recommendation to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor W. Maslin. Is there any speakers against the motion?
Okay, so I'm not particularly speaking against the motion per se, but I'm not 100% sold on it because of the devil in the detail. So going back a bit, and that's why I think this could have been managed a whole lot better on DG's behalf in communicating to our community on the level of change. So we wind it back a little bit, and going off the sign that's still there prominently, proudly displaying resort-style apartments, uninterrupted views coming soon. You mentioned 3 years ago. Well, it was with the intent that when the state put that block up for sale, that they wanted something that was going to be bespoke, and that to a developer that could perform. And you got it, Nick. You got it then. You came along and you presented and you sold us the dream and the vision, and we were hooked. That was really bold stuff. We're talking Lord McAlpine, Broome, setting the standard. Okay, so there was a tourism offering, there was a commercial offering, restaurant out front, 4.5 star. However, you've gone some way to explaining why that didn't get up. It was sort of not long after you came and sold us the vision, which we fully supported you on. You came back and you had a request for some more time. We waived planning fees at the time. You asked for some more time, and we agreed to that, to extend your time. It was a minimum of 2 years or something to start off with, and wanted another 2, I think it was. And we graciously gave that over because we thought you're bringing something pretty big here to town, and we need to support you. Okay, so we did that, and then time passes. And then to my surprise, when we were going to have a briefing the other day on this revised development, it was starkly in contrast to what was originally put forward, but there was no explanation, except for what you'd said briefly today. Okay, we understand. But my thing is not knocking it, is not saying that, but also at the same time, we have only one shot at this to get it right. But it's not, as a real estate agent, I know they're not making any more of these blocks on prime waterfront land on the west coast of Australia. So my thing is, I don't want to hold up progress. What I'm respectfully asking is that you give us a little bit more time, and I'm not talking a long time, I'm talking about a month or two, laying this on the table till the detail in regards to how that bistro is and how big that restaurant is and what the expectation is. Give us time to get out in the community to bring them along with us on this journey and help support your vision and basically get it right, not to have it hard and fast and say, well, if it doesn't happen today, it's never going to happen. So I hope there's some way to explain what the reluctance is, or the fact that we actually have people in the gallery here and we're not talking about the blowholes. You know what I mean? This is a big thing. No, I don't mean flip. It's a good thing. So very pro-development. It's just a matter of how can we help support you. I do take note that the CEO from the Development Commission, Mr. Tim Bray, is in here as well. So I think with your vision, albeit revised and not quite there yet, but very close, the Shire's enthusiasm to see development go ahead, and with some support from the state government, we can get this spot on. So in its current form, I'm not going to go ahead and vote for it in its current form. We're very close. I'd like to see it just lay on the table till for at least another month while we work together as a council, bring the community along. I don't think it's going to change dramatically, but at least we'll know exactly what we're getting, and you know exactly what sort of support we can offer. It's my two thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Madeline. Through the CEO, can I ask if we could have a look at putting together something along the lines of what we discussed with Nick about the changes that possibly. So if we can put that together and come up with it, I can continue with further speakers forward against the motion. I'll put that together. Thank you. Any further speakers for the motion?
Can we just wait for this one? My question was going to be in relation to that.
Right. Councillors Cottrell, sorry, I can't. I'll have to wait for it, so whatever. so that will become item 3, and then the next one's a facilitator. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was the next
Can I have a mover for that, Councillor Dudley-Mansell? Second it, please.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
No,
As the
I
mover-
need a second it before.
No, I just wanted, as a point of order, just as the mover of the original motion, standard motion, I don't see it as an amendment, I see it as an addition.
It's, yes.
And
it's-
as a mover of the motion, I was suggesting I could accept that
Yes.
as the motion, with the agreement of the second.
Yeah, so,
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, thank you. Thank you. Well done. Thank you. So with that, councillors, Councillor Vandler.
Just for clarification on the addition to the motion, in the event, so how does that play out in the event? So within 3 months of this date, does that make this motion to recommendation to approve the application? Does that invalidate it, effectively make it a pseudo? It's not really a, is
It's
it
a condition
contingent
that
on
we-
then another application or another, what's the process for the new?
So through the chair, we will
Yeah.
come back to council to make sure that you're comfortable. As with a number of these, we will need to be giving council updates and getting confirmation that the management plan for the site, you know, a number of those things, the tenancy management plan, all meet council's approval. So it's another condition that needs to be signed off.
Okay, and in the event that council isn't happy with it, what then?
Then that would hold up the delay and council would need to decide to proceed or not. It's one of the conditions.
Yeah, he's not compliant with the condition. We'll have to come back.
So through the chair, if the developer was not compliant with this condition, we'd need to come back to council and seek a way forward.
Can I move to suspend standing orders?
Councillor Moses, Councillor Vandler. Councillor Murphy. You wish to? Oh, sorry. All those in favour? Unanimous.
Online?
Oh, sorry, online. Thank you, gentlemen. 7-0. Councillor Mason.
The reason I've moved to suspend standing orders is because this is what I was alluding to at the very beginning when I opened the address to council, the gallery and Mr. Delarte, is that we are making stuff up on the fly, of which Councillor Vandler has just made a very valid point. What if we go ahead and amend this and change that? If it's not accepted by the developer or worked through with the proponent, we're going backwards and back to square. That's why I'm suggesting that it should be maybe considered that this lay on the table not for a lengthy period, but have Mr. Delarte in the room with the planners, with the, you know, the expectations of the size of the bistro, and so get it right once, bring it back to council, even if you have to have another special meeting, and get it done, but do it right instead of making stuff up on the fly as we go. It's a major project, a major development for Glenarvan, and a big commitment by the developer. You know, so I think we owe it to him and the community to get it right. It's not a do it today or
Councillor,
die.
consider that starting to debate.
I'm not
So
doing it, yeah.
you're
So
making
that's the
statements-
reason.
You're making statements which will lead into a debate, so.
That's the reason why I suspend the standing orders, to get it right, Mr. President.
Yes, I understand. Has anybody else got anything to say? Nobody's got anything else to say? Can I have a move that we go back into standing orders, please? Councillor Vandler, Councillor Masden, all those in favour? Thank you, gentlemen. Mrs. Hill has 7-0. Councillors, I got any further speakers for the motion?
Yeah, I'll speak for the motion. I have heard everything the developer said. I concur with Councillor Dudley-Mazen's input, and I don't disagree with Councillor Burke-Mazen what you're saying. I don't think I'm as far away from the application as you are, and that's why I don't think it's a major impulse to try and iron out the bistro stuff subsequent to this meeting. that's why I'm not discounting the concerns of you. It's just that the feedback I've had from the community, this that I've read on the emails and online, these things are always going to be somewhat contentious because when it comes to design and things like that, everyone looks at it with a different eye. I'm looking at the billboards and stuff over there, and I think it's quite similar to that. I don't personally have an issue with the design, and I think a lot of these things, once they're built, the issues with design evaporate over time. But for me, the piece that is missing is something on the corner, or on that waterfront, which is a venue which does that waterfront justice. My concern is if that isn't right, then you've lost that opportunity forever. I think we've put enough in there. I'm comfortable that we've put enough in there to satisfy that, and I'm comfortable in the event that if there's commercial space required on Robinson Street, then even though it's being built in a way where it's capable of being turned into commercial space, I'm confident that's enough of a mitigating input to this equation, and I think they're the kind of challenges that we'll face in maybe 5 to 10 years' time if we're going to face it. I don't think they're just around the corner. Hopefully they are challenges that we face in town booms and we're looking for that kind of stuff, but at this very second I think a nice bistro on something that does that corner justice and the residential development's fine in my eyes, not discounting your concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Vanderbilt. Any further speakers against the motion? Being no further speakers against the motion, I will speak to the motion. I'd like to first congratulate Stephen Lone's team on the presentation of this agenda item, because there's a massive amount of work gone into this agenda item. I think there's been a huge amount of effort putting in to ensure that we get the best possible outcome. I know there has been a huge effort doing so. I'm a little bit excited to see something that I worked on over 15 years ago actually coming to fruition in our town, which is going to see more people coming into our town. And I've heard lots of negatives and positives, and there's been some very, very strange negatives from people. And there's one gentleman that's talking about, well, he might as well put the headstone on the grave of Carnarvon because of what's happening if this gets built. And I thought, well, if you're already leaving the town, why are you making statements like this without even fully understanding what's happening? It's been that part of it has been very, very disappointing, councillors, and I had to bring it up. Look, this development will provide accommodation for services that we desperately need in this town, and I congratulate the developer on going to the effort to do this, and I implore all councillors to support this application. Thank you. So with that, Councillor Dudley-Mason, would you like to close the debate?
Thank you, President. I don't think that anyone sitting around the table here actually disagrees with each other. I believe that the question that we've been trying to resolve is a clarification on the corner development as to what it's going to be and what it's going to look like. I believe that insertion of that clause gives us the opportunity to have some time to come back. It doesn't have to be more than a period, month, 2, whatever. It's up to us to get on with it and do it as a council, to get it back to council, to make sure we get it going, because I don't want us to be one of the bureaucracies that holds up development in this town. So enough of that happens anyway. I concur with Councillor Maslin's observations and his aspirations for the town, because we, as I say, we all share that. It was just a matter of the definitive identification of what that corner block is going to do. That's the main pivot on what are we actually going to have there. So if it's a bistro or a cafe or what it is, I think we all agree it's going to be at the upper end, the higher end of it, and that's what our aspiration is. Nick's mentioned that he agrees with that. He's come along, that it will be identified, and we'll do that in consultation with our planner, and it'll be worked with the council, the developer will work with the council to come up with the idea of presenting something that's going to be acceptable to the community, and hopefully once we get something up on paper to present to the community, that they will understand and take part in supporting it. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Maslin. So without further ado, councillors, all those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That's adopted unanimously, Mrs Hill, 7-0. Councillors, we have officer's recommendation part 2. Would someone like to move a motion as written, or would someone like to move a motion with a 50% waiver applying? A 50% waiver applying the plan. Josh asked the question.
I'll move it as written.
As written. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Marina. Would you like to open the debate, Councillor Van?
The debate's open. I support the officer's recommendation on review of the information they've provided there. I understand the developer's position. We're all business and we all want to pay less for things, and I fully appreciate that. But in addition to that, there's just other equity pieces. If we're going to start doing discounts on this kind of stuff, every time we've got someone come in, we're going to face the same question. So I'm comfortable the Shire's done everything necessary to help this development get ahead. I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Vanderloo. Is there any speakers against the motion? Is there any further speakers for the motion?
I'll speak for the motion. Considering Council's formal waiver of fees, I think this is fair and reasonable. I understand and concur with Councillor Vanderloo's observation that we should start doing this. Yeah, we're not exactly flush ourselves in far as budget terms, so I'm comfortable the way it is, and urge councillors to vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Maslin. Any further speakers for the motion? Sorry, against the motion, sorry. There being no further speakers against or for the motion, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous, 7-0. Thank you, Mrs Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, thank you for coming up. Thank you for being here. It's great to see some people in the gallery. And I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you.